The next prevention coping skill has to do with creating more of a big picture perspective. Remember I mentioned that some kids have this narrow focus, egocentric, and they hyper-focus on details of the now, and maybe they miss the big picture. So this coping poster is called the Big Deal-O-Meter. And we're gonna measure what's a big deal and what's not a big deal. People of all ages can benefit from this. This is cartoony because I taught this to a younger group actually. And it still has the same colors as emotional GPS. So if a thermometer measures temperature and a speedometer measures speed, what does a big dealometer measure, right? That's what we're talking about with kids. It measures what's a big deal. So if you are in the purple phase, you are happy and relaxed, you can say no biggie. Whatever's happening is no big deal. And so that's one catchphrase that comes out of this immediately. Look for chances to say no biggie for as many things as possible. Can you make this no biggie? Can you make that a no biggie? So that's one thing. That's kind of the quick and easy one. If you are going to teach this to a child, here's how you do it. You pre-make a scale of 0 to 10. 10 is freak out city. You can see there's an angry face at the bottom. And then we have the frustrated and stressed out yellow and orange phases, and you're happy up top. And so first, I have the kids list things, everyday things that happen to them that really cause them to freak out, that, get really mad. And so you can see in the bottom left, this one child said, if I hear the word no, when people tell me no, that was like an 8, 9, 10. People are mean to my friends. That sets me off, said another child. If I mess up in art, I had a client who would just, every time he made the littlest mistake, in his opinion, he'd shred his paper, he'd rip it up, get really mad, start again, and he would go through like 10 or 12 pictures in a 5-7 minute drawing period. So meltdown city there. And this fourth child said getting punched. That really gets me mad. Okay, so those are all 8, 9s, and 10s for them. Then the adult, the caregiver, the teacher, the therapist, whoever is working with the child, then you list some other big picture things that could happen in the world. These are God forbids. And if you do this, you have to teach it in the most glib sort of tongue-in-cheek style. So it's light. But you do need to actually put some real life things in there so that they have something to compare to. So I say to kids, God forbid, these are all God forbids, but what if both of your parents or caregivers died? How upset should you get? What number would that be? Some kids will say, that's 100. And we say, no, we can't bust the big deal meter. It's 10. 10 is the highest. So that becomes the new 10. And notice, if someone dies, that's a forever thing, right? That's not like all the everyday things that are temporary. So that's why I list something that's kind of permanent. So people die, that's a new 10 for sure. Okay, then I tell kids a ridiculous story about, they're outside, they're playing, and in a freak accident, their leg gets chopped off, it bounces 2 times and rolls down the sewer. So a doctor can't reattach it. Everyone, just so you know, I added the sewer part because one very bright and challenging group member one time said, well, the doctors can reattach it. So it was no longer a forever thing. So I had to add this wrinkle of it bounces into the sewer, so it now can't be reattached. They've lost their leg forever. They're going to be in a wheelchair. Life is going to be a lot harder to get around forever. So how upset should you be? Is that as bad as people dying? The kids said no. That's a 9. Okay, so we measured that as a 9. Then I said, well, what if you're outside playing and it's not your leg that gets chopped off? You dive for the ball and then, whoops, your pinky finger gets chopped off and bounces into the sewer, so it can't be reattached. Now, is that as bad as your leg being chopped off? You still have 9 other fingers, right? You can do just about everything. You can get around on both legs. So what do you think? It's still forever. And the kids correctly rate. They said that was like a 7.5. You can see where this is going. And then for the next one, I said I made up a fantasy about an asteroid, flying through space, very near to Earth, and it had a very high magnetism. It was very highly magnetized, and it came so close to Earth that it wiped out computers and all technology, and scientists estimated that it was going to last for about a year until that effect wore off. So we were We lose all technology for 1 year. And then we go down the list. Is that as bad as someone dying? Is that as bad as your leg getting chopped off forever? And you can see the kids, we worked our way up, and they said, no, that's a 6.5 or 7. I was like, wow, you guys thought about this really well. So you can see now we have these forever things and big deal things. And here's the final part of this lesson. You go back to the left side that the kids originally made, and we say, okay, well, let's bring some of those everyday things onto the right side and see where they fit. Okay, so you hear no. Someone says, no, you can't do that. Is that as bad as someone dying? Is that as bad as your pinky finger getting chopped off? No. You work your way up. And so you ask the child, well, what new number would you give it? And if you follow the arrows, you can see that the child who said no used to be a 10. That wound up being a 3 now that they had something to compare it to. And you can see where all the arrows go. I went to each child and had them newly evaluate the same thing that used to get them so upset, and every arrow trended up. Getting punched, they still said was a 7. I accepted that. But it's not a 10, right? It's no longer Meltdown City. So the kids could see that. And so here's how you end it if you're teaching this child this. If you really want your child to evaluate how big of a deal something is so they don't overreact anymore, you say, all right, so now every day, your teachers, your parents, everyone are going to be listening for all the chances you can say no biggie. And then look, if you have arrows that are kind of in that 3, 4, 5 area, if they move up there, you can fix it. You can problem solve it. Right? Isn't that cool? There's stuff we can do about that because we know those are not forever things. And in the very next lesson for some of these kids, I might go right to problem solving. Right? So that's how we use this. We establish everyday things, we then list forever things, and then we move the everyday things back over and prove to kids that it's not as big a deal, and maybe they should try to react in accordance.